Hi, I'm Andrea Weezer and I'm a student at Jefferson University. And this is what you need to know about the importance of effective training program design. Have you ever attended training that left you feeling uninspired, bored, and thinking about what a waste of time it was? What about training that was inspiring, engaging, and valuable? Well, what determines this path comes down to one topic: effective training program design, and it's easy to get right just as long as proper planning is done. Over the next 10 minutes, we will explore the following topics so that you or anyone you know can design an effective training program no matter the content. First, we will cover selecting and preparing a suitable training site, then how to choose the right trainers, before we move on to looking at the various learning theories and how they guide training preparations. Then we will talk about how trainers make the training site and instruction conducive to learning, what a curriculum roadmap is and why it's important to have one, pre- and post-training activities, and what must be considered during the program design phase to guarantee the transfer of learning. Lastly, we will explore the role managers can play to support training and how trainers are able to assess whether a training program has been a success. So, let's get started. When planning training, the first step to consider is where it's going to be held, and regardless of where it is, the site should always be comfortable and easy to access, quiet, private and free from unwanted interruptions, and have enough space for everyone to fit in comfortably and see one another. But there are lots more considerations that should be made to avoid any problems on the day, like lighting, temperature and ventilation, and not forgetting necessities such as electrical outlets to plug in any laptops or projectors, as well as ensuring you have access to the internet if needed. As the person responsible for finding a good place to hold a class, it's your job to make sure that everything needed is present and there'll be no nasty surprises on the day. Once the right site has been found, then it's time to consider choosing who will instruct your training. Whoever you pick must know what they're talking about and have previous experience. Having a lot of knowledge on the topic is not enough when it comes to training, and presentation and communication skills are just as important. If you plan to use someone internal with the necessary topic skills and experience, you may want to consider some formal training so that they can learn how to be an effective trainer. If you hire someone external, then spend time talking to them to ensure they have the necessary skills, knowledge, experience, and ability to conduct the training as your needs specify. It's important to align the design of any training program with the various learning theories that exist. These learning theories explain how skills and information can be learned and apply to various forms of training. They're listed below, but we'll only focus on one today, and that's adult learning theory, as this should guide your preparations and how the training is conducted more than any other. It's more than likely that you're looking to design training for adults, and you want them to learn, otherwise 1, you wouldn't be here, and 2, all of your other efforts are pointless. Anyhow, adult learning theory is based on 5 assumptions about the characteristics of adult learners, which, I should add, are not my assumptions. They belong to this guy, Malcolm Knowles, who is an American educator and studied the art and science of adult learning. Anyway, enough about him. Malcolm's 5 assumptions are self-concept, which is based on a person's progression from being dependent to self-directed; adult learner experience, which describes the wealth of experience accumulated by people and how they use it for their own future learning; the readiness to learn, which acknowledges how people become more willing and able to learn as they identify their social roles in life; orientation to learning, which sees the focus of learners shift from wanting to know more about a subject to searching for solutions to problems; and lastly, motivation to learn, which suggests that the desire to learn grows internally as people mature. But how can you take this into account during the program design phase? Well, actually, very easy and important. You should consider these options for adult learners before you go any further in designing your training. Involve your audience in the planning and evaluation of their instruction. Ask them what they are looking to get out of the training and then evaluate this at the end. Understand the good, the bad, and the downright ugly experiences of those you're going to be training, as these provide the basis for learning activities and will guide your actions. Adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance and impact to their job or personal life, so make sure they're able to draw a connection between what you're telling or showing them and the tasks or activities they're doing. And finally, adult learning is problem-centered rather than content-oriented. So approach your material with this in mind. Help your audience find solutions to their problems and you will have their undivided attention. Next, we turn our attention to how trainers can make the physical training site and the way they instruct the class conducive to learning. And there are 10 simple steps of doing this. First, create a learning setting by ensuring your chosen location has the right size room for the number of participants attending and that the layout of chairs and tables supports the activities included. Then prepare the materials you're going to be using, ensuring you have handouts printed ahead of time and all required technology is set up and ready to go. Make sure you know the content inside out. If you're unprepared, it's going to show. To be effective, training must be able to relate to their audience. So keeping up to date with popular culture, world events and social topics currently impacting them will help capture and retain their attention. Acknowledge age and generational differences. Everyone attending your training will be individually different, so taking this into account when designing activities, materials and teaching methods will help ensure no one gets left behind. To ensure attendees are motivated to learn, it's important to inform them of the purpose of the course, learning objectives, course prerequisites and who else will be attending, as well as explaining how the training will be meaningful before they arrive. At the beginning of the course and for each day at last, explain what will be covered. Also, give them frequent breaks so they can leave the room and return ready to start learning again. As the course progresses, stay on top of housekeeping. Monitor the room for extra chairs, overflowing trash cans, and unnecessary training materials. A messy, disorganised, uninvited training room creates distractions, and you can't afford for any of those. Throughout the class, interact with trainees as much as possible and get to know them. Dealing with disruption is also essential if your class is to stay on track, so tackling disruptive trainees and making a connection with them will help them to focus on others around them to continue learning. And finally, manage group dynamics. Your audience will likely be made up of a mixture of characters and personalities. Bear this in mind. Now we're going to have a look at what a curriculum roadmap is and why you should consider having one. A curriculum roadmap is an image. It shows all the courses in a curriculum, the paths that learners can take through it, and the sequence in which courses have to be completed. It looks a little like this. For each course, it's important to record information that can be used to help develop and design the content, such as a brief statement of the course purpose, including why it's important, prerequisite skills needed, learning objectives or competencies covered, the format of the content and course expectations, and the delivery method, such as whether it will be completed online, delivered in a classroom, or whatever you choose. From here, it's helpful to create a design document, which looks something like this. These vary in length and detail, but should always cover the purpose and goals of training, the target audience, the length of training and the method, the number of participants, the training location, any prerequisites, problems and opportunities prompting the requirement for training, and who the instructor or instructors are. From doing this, it's possible to capture the majority of information relating to why the training is taking place, where and how. And if you want to be even more organised, you can create a course or lesson plan, which looks something like this. Included within the lesson plan is the specific steps involved in the lesson, the structure and training activities, as well as the time allocated to each topic included in the lesson. The length of the training course is irrelevant, and these can be designed for programs lasting a day, a week, or several hours. The purpose of the plan is to detail everything that the instructor needs to know to walk into the training room and deliver the content, although obviously this isn't the first they should have heard about it. Now we'll move on to activities that should be carried out both before and after the training occurs. Before any training takes place, you should have fully designed the course, including ensuring that you have conducted a needs analysis, created a learning environment including a set of learning objectives, activities, necessary checkpoints, prepared materials and resources needed, including those on the day and those needed for evaluating the class thereafter. You should have marketed the class and communicated with attendees about prerequisites, what to expect, and what they need to do before attending, as well as what they should bring with them. And you should have designed all aspects of the course and made arrangements for everything in advance. This is essential if the day is going to go smoothly. And after training has been delivered, it's essential that you conduct a thorough evaluation, understand if the needs and requirements of all attendees have been met. You ask for feedback on the course content and delivery. You provide feedback where possible to attendees' managers. make changes to the program where necessary, and follow up with attendees or their managers to see if the course impacted their performance in any way. Now let's think about the implications that program design has on the transfer of learning. But first, let's cover what the transfer of learning actually is. Quite simply put, the transfer of learning is when trainees remember what they have learned and use it on an ongoing basis, like you're going to do after this tutorial, but it's a little more complicated than that. One of the important decisions you'll have to make is whether the learning environment and conditions perfectly match the trainee's job environment, or if what's learned will be more general and can apply to various work situations. Another important consideration is how to encourage trainees to bring learned skills into the workplace and how to create opportunities and support for doing this. Firstly, to assess whether the learning environment and conditions match the trainee's job environment, decide if the focus is considered near or far transfer. Near transfer is when a trainee can take a skill or capability they've learned and apply it exactly how it has been learned within their working environment. Far transfer is the exact opposite and involves the trainee applying what they have learned to their working environment, even though some elements or factors are completely different. But why is that important, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Each type of transfer has different requirements. I'll show you now. Programs that emphasise near transfer should include trainees following specific procedures, processes and checklists, as well as being shown explicitly where any differences occur between training and work tasks, such as a different brand of paper clips being used, or something equally as important. And programs that emphasise far transfer should focus on teaching general concepts, broad principles or key behaviours while providing a list of prompts or questions that may help trigger specific questions and will help them apply their learning to their own working environment. Understanding this can help ensure your trainees are able to apply what you are teaching them from the offset, but they also need to understand how they can take responsibility for this themselves. Not everyone has the opportunity to use their newly learned skills and knowledge, so encouraging your trainees to take steps in order to make this happen themselves is conducive to the transfer of learning. You should encourage them to identify and discuss any lapses they have in skill and knowledge by completing an assessment with them, discuss the resources they have available so their new knowledge can be transferred into the workplace, and to join a network between all trainees so they can support one another with problems or issues they are having in the workplace. Including group projects on the day is an excellent way of starting this communication between people. Although gaining management support is also important to the transfer of learning, as we will talk about next. Managers play an important role in supporting trainees. They're able to give support and provide opportunities for the transfer of learning in the workplace, although not all are permitted or able to do this. There are several levels of management support, range from a high level where managers involve themselves in the programme by instructing some or all of the courses, to a low level where they accept and permit their employees to attend training, but they aren't always committed to providing opportunities for them to practice what they've learned. To maximise the transfer of training and make the outcome a resounding success, both trainers and trainees should try and secure the highest level of support possible. Now, speaking of success, how do trainers assess if a training programme has been effective? Well, it lays in the hands of the outcome of training evaluations, which is a fancy way of saying how trainees feel after attending training, and the learned information they can recall. But to get technical, because sometimes you have to, the official names of such outcomes are reaction, which focuses on learners' satisfaction with the programme, facilities, trainers and content; learning or cognitive, which tests for evidence on facts, information, processes and procedures learned for training; behaviour and skill-based, which assesses technical skills and behaviours; effective, which looks at trainees' attitudes and motivation following on from their attendance of the training; results, which focuses on the physical results arising from trainees attending the course; and the return on investment, which measures the relationship between the benefits of what's been learned and the cost associated with such learning. Whichever outcome or outcomes are sought after, one thing is for sure: it is always important to measure at least one of these outcomes. Otherwise, how do you know as a trainer if your program design was truly effective? And there you have it. All the tools and information that you should need to design an effective training program. Good luck!